gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new episode of At the Buzzer Sports, where we talk all things basketball all the time. My name is John Drummond, and today we are going to be doing our tier list video on the Western Conference teams only. So we have 5 different tiers. That is Contenders, Playoff Bound, Fringe Playoff, Weird Spot, and Lottery. These teams are all going to be mixed into these 5 tiers, and we're going to be talking about all of them in depth. Now, I'm trying not to go too in depth because we will be starting our series breaking down all 30 teams in the NBA fairly soon, but we still want to put this tier list out, and then I'm going to be getting into my power rankings, my standing predictions. We're going to be doing all that over at the Hoop Talk podcast. We're probably going to be taking a 3-4 week break. I'm not going to lie, but it is going to be fun to get into that. So first team we're going to be talking about is the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm going to be putting them in playoff bound. Now, there are a few things I want to talk about with Dallas, and I truly think Dallas can be a contender. I just don't want to bet on it. I don't want to bet on it for the simple fact is, one, I think their offense is going to struggle without Kyrie Irving. I think they're going to be one of, if not the best defense in the league, but I do think their offense is going to struggle, and particularly in the half court. I can see them doing something like what OKC did with Shea off the court, just being a team that blitzes a lot more on the defensive side of the ball and tries to get in transition as much as possible. I don't know how possible that would be with Anthony Davis because he's not the level of transition player he once was, but that could be one of their clear signs of trying to be better as an offense. Or they could do something Houston did last year to where their total offense was still maybe right outside the top 10 or middle of the pack, even though we knew they had one of the worst half-court offenses in the league because the Rockets got out and transitioned as much as possible, and they were the one of the best or the best rebounding team in the NBA. And I think Dallas can replicate that without Kyrie Irving in the half-court. We don't even know how good Kyrie Irving is going to be when he comes back. So I think that's one of the more intriguing parts of this season for Dallas, because they have the personnel to be one of the best rebounding teams in the league. Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, Cooper Flagg, all these guys can contribute to having one of the better rebounding teams in the NBA, and they can be one of the better transition teams in the NBA. I just have to see it. I just have to see it. With Kyrie Irving not being out, or Kyrie Irving being out, you're one Anthony Davis injury away from being knocked out of the playoffs in the Western Conference. So it's tricky with Dallas, and especially in the Western Conference, to where there are so many teams in the West that can make the playoffs. Not having Anthony Davis for 2 weeks while Kyrie Irving is out could take you from a 5th seed to a 9th seed, and you're playing catch up for the rest of the season. As for Cooper Flagg, I think Cooper Flagg is going to be really, really good defensively, especially with this team with him. I think he's always going to have backline help. I think he's going to have really good point of attack defenders around him. It's the offensive end, and I'm going to be talking about this a little bit later in the offseason. Cooper Flagg as an offensive player is going to, in my opinion, struggle just a little bit once he starts out in Dallas, because I think from what I've seen in Summer League, they're going to ask him to have a lot of on-ball reps and a lot of main decision-making reps, which is not what I see for Cooper Flagg in his first season with an offensively limited type of team. I don't think he has the handle to consistently be a number 1 ball handler in the NBA level. Yes, he did it at Duke. Yes, he did it in the Summer League, but I said this before. Dyson Daniels and Lou Dort, those are different breeds that are going to be picking him up full court, maybe as soon as he crosses half court. I just don't think he has the handle to deal with that type of ball pressure, and you would love to see Cooper Flagg be put in more of a play finishing type of role, but Dallas is a team that desperately needs that perimeter creation. So that's something that's going to be very interesting to see with them. I do think they're going to be one of the best defenses in the league, and I think they're going to be one of the best rebounding teams in the league. So if you can create multiple second chance points, it doesn't necessarily matter how efficient your half-court offense is. And if you can constantly get out in transition, which is the easiest way to get points in the NBA, I think that is going to help them significantly. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Dallas does, and I'm going to be watching them a lot. As for Denver, I'm going to put them as contenders, and I'm high on Denver. I wouldn't say I'm as high as I've seen throughout the offseason. I still think Denver didn't get better as a defensive team. I don't think Bruce Brown is the level of defender that the Nuggets need. I think Jonas Valanciunas is terrible on defense. I don't think Cam Johnson was as much of an improvement defensively than Michael Porter Jr. was. Aaron Gordon was not great defensively throughout all 82 during the regular season. He was really good in the playoffs, but throughout the regular season, he was not as good. Christian Brown is a really good defender, so that's something to look at. Peyton Watson's a really good defender, but how much can he be on the floor, especially with other non-floor spacers? But I do think adding that depth to this team is very important. And bringing in Cam Johnson was a win. Like, that was a serious one because I think he's better than Michael Porter Jr. and he's also $17 million cheaper. And then you have Nikola Jokic, who's the best floor-raising player in the NBA as of right now. So, and the best player in the league in general. So I think Denver definitely has a shot to win the entire thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I mean, I think going 7 games with the Oklahoma City Thunder with how hampered they were as a roster due to injury speaks volume. And now you bring in that depth and you bring in more floor spacing in Tim Hardaway Jr. and in Cam Johnson. I think they have something to work with. I definitely think they have something to work with. As for the Memphis Grizzlies, I'm going to put them in fringe playoffs. I think Memphis is in a weird spot because last year we saw the best their offense has been since they drafted Ja Morant, and that was with Ja Morant not being the player we know Ja Morant to be. They were running pick and rolls a lot less, and it was a more of a free-flowing ball movement type of roster, offensive scheme, and Ja Morant isn't the off-ball player you would want him to be or floor spacer that you would want him to be for that offense to work or for him to work in that offense. And we've seen the ceiling of a Ja-catered offense, and I think that is their ceiling, because I think for Ja Morant or for the Memphis Grizzlies to be seriously considered as a contending team, Ja Morant has to be at the level that we are normally accustomed to, especially in the postseason. But Ja Morant being to that level kind of takes away from some of their offense, because we saw later in the season when Ja Morant started to up his pick and roll volume, the Grizzlies offense started to decline and they started to lose more. And then there's no Desmond Bane. So this is going to be very interesting. Jalen Wells will be coming back, so that's going to be very intriguing to see how he plays. One of my favorite rookies this season is going to be Cedric Coward. I'm very intrigued to see how he can impact this team because he's a really good defender and a really good shooter, especially mid-range. He has a really good one-dribble pull-up, which I value as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Memphis Grizzlies do. But right now, I see them as a fringe playoff team, a team that could be in the play-in. So for that, take that for what you will. As for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm going to put them playoff bound. I don't think they're contenders. I do not think the Minnesota Timberwolves are contenders. I think they're a really good team. But one of my biggest questions is the starting point guard position. I think Anthony Edwards has gotten a lot better throughout the years. There have been multiple different things that you would have wanted to see with Anthony Edwards. Obviously, in the 2024 Western Conference Finals, we saw that he was very weak as not a ball handler, but a distributor. Somebody that could be somebody that makes consistent reads for his team, possession in and possession out. The way Dallas was able to blitz him and send doubles, and he just did not know how to deal with that. This season in the postseason, he got a lot better. I'm a Lakers fan. Trust me, I know. And obviously the three-point shooting. I mean, you were shooting 40% on 10 threes a game. I think that level of improvement is very substantial as well. What I would love to see from Anthony Edwards a little bit more this year is the in-between game really start to take a jump. We see that Anthony Edwards is the type of player that can create space in the in-between game, and the shot just doesn't fall. I think the touch from floater range or from that mid-range area, from that 16 feet to the three-point line area is really where it's lacking. And I understand like a lot of teams may not lean towards that mid-range heavy type of basketball, but in the playoffs, that stuff really matters. Like when you're going up against a team like OKC that had such elite rim protection in Chet Holmgren and have really good point of attack defenders, him being able to get to that in-between game is probably what's going to be best for Anthony Edwards. And I'm going to say this. Anthony Edwards has made a lot of improvement as a playmaker, and specifically in the playoffs. You've seen the signs of him getting better throughout the regular season, but in the playoffs, he really showed that he can take that leap and be a main ball handler. but I just don't think he's ready to be the main ball handler and decision maker for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then I definitely don't think Rob Dillingham is ready. And I think Mike Conley is starting to like get a little too old for that situation and say that maybe he could be a backup point guard, but I don't necessarily see him being a starting point guard. And then when we look at the loss of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was probably their best perimeter defender on that team, it's either him or Jaden McDaniels. And I mean, I think Terrence Shannon's shown a lot of really good signs over the postseason last year, but to ask him to step in and just take those Nickeil Alexander-Walker minutes is going to be a struggle. Those would be my biggest signs. And then how much are you going to be able to play Mike Conley come playoff time? Because we know when Mike Conley's on the floor, that's majority when Rudy Gobert's on the floor, because Mike Conley feeds Gobert consistently. They have that chemistry because they played in Utah together. It's just going to be very interesting to see what Minnesota does, but I just don't see them as a contender right now. As for the San Antonio Spurs, I think I'm going to put them fringe playoff as well. I think over the past few seasons, the San Antonio Spurs have really been projected off of how good they think Wemby's going to be the next season and how good they think their young players are going to be. And San Antonio is building a really good team. They have De'Aaron Fox. They brought him in to pair next to Wemby, and they just extended him. And now you draft Dylan Harper. You go and draft Stephon Castle, who just won Rookie of the Year. You have potential. You have the potential to have 3 straight Rookie of the Years. 3 straight. Would I bank on it? No. But I'm saying you have a really good collection of young talent. I haven't even talked about Carter Bryant. But I just think the floor spacing on this team is going to be very abysmal. Dylan Harper, in theory, can be a really good shooter, but I just don't think he's a good shooter right now. De'Aaron Fox still isn't a good shooter, and it's definitely not worth taking away some of the rim attempts that he used to take earlier in his career. Carter Bryant is somebody that has shown to be a good shooter at the collegiate level. He has not shown it over the summer league, but I do believe in his jump shot. I like his form. I like his footing. I think he can be a really good jump shooter. But we're just going to have to see with this team. Victor Wembanyama, in my opinion, is a top 10 player. I think he's going to get better this season as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what he does. But I think San Antonio is a fringe playoff team. Up next, we have the Utah Jazz, our very first lottery team of this video. I like what Utah is doing. I think Walter Clayton and Ace Bailey were 2 good pickups in the draft. Kyle Filipowski is somebody that has a lot of potential, somebody that can get downhill, can shoot, can pass, and put the ball on the floor. They also have a trade piece in Lauri Markkanen. I really hope Lauri Markkanen plays well to the point where he can get moved at the deadline, because I feel as though they sat on him last offseason, and now that he had a struggling season this year, he may not be able to have that same trade value that he once had. I like Isaiah Collier. I like Walker Kessler. Hopefully they're not moving these guys. I think they're one really high draft pick, maybe a top 3 or 4 pick in the draft, away from really having their young core and starting to build a team together for the future. They get rid of Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton, so they're starting to shred down some of these players that they had. They got rid of John Collins as well. So I think we're starting to see it with Utah. I mean, there were a few seasons before last year where Utah was pretty good the first 2 months of the year, and that really tanked their draft value. And this was the first year of them really just tanking all the way through the season, and they end up with the number 5 pick. I mean, hopefully they could get better luck next year and get a top 3 pick to where they can get a guy like Darren Peterson or Cameron Boozer or AJ DeBonsta. Hopefully, because they missed out on Cooper Flagg. As for the Los Angeles Clippers, I'm going to put this team as a playoff bound team. The Clippers on paper have a contending roster. I think a lot of this is dependent on health. How does Kawhi Leonard look? How does this defense look? What do you do with Chris Dunn? I do think they got a lot better. Bringing in a backup center in the level of Brook Lopez, who can still be a really good rim protector. He's not going to be asked to play in space as much as they did in Milwaukee. So I think that's going to be very valuable as well. I think Ivica Zubac is an all-NBA caliber big man and an all-defensive caliber big as well. Like I said, this all depends on health. And I think Bringing in John Collins and Bradley Beal is extremely important for this Clippers team because you want guys that can carry the load as scorers on the offensive end if Kawhi Leonard is going to miss half the season. And that's something you have to bank on. I think a lot of teams who have a hampered star have to bring in guys that can carry a load offensively if that player is going to be there or not. And over the past few seasons, that's just something we have to expect from Kawhi Leonard. I think John Collins plays inside the arc really well. I think he has a really good face-up game. He's become a really good three-point shooter, and he can be used in the pick and roll extremely well with Harden. So I think that's great as well. Bradley Beal, extremely efficient. This is a world where now we don't have to underrate Bradley Beal because of the contract. Bradley Beal is somebody that can be a secondary ball handler when Kawhi's not on the floor. He can make side pick and roll actions. He can get to the rim, and he can shoot, and he can play off the ball. And we may see him as a defender again. So that's going to be something that's very interesting. The only reason I don't have them as contenders is because of the injury history with Kawhi Leonard. I truly believe if they don't have Kawhi Leonard, they won't be contenders. And there's no telling if Kawhi Leonard is going to be healthy through another playoff run. So I have to have them at playoff bound. On paper, I can see why they're contenders, but I really would just hold them back because of the Kawhi Leonard injury. Up next, we have the Phoenix Suns, and this is the very first team that I'm going to be putting in a weird spot. The Phoenix Suns don't have their draft picks for the next couple of seasons. This team will not make the playoffs. They're going to contend. They're going to be competitive. I do think they have an intriguing roster. No matter how high I am on Kaman Maluach or how much I think Devin Booker is a really good player, despite last season and him just struggling in that aspect. I think this team just isn't there to be a playoff team in the Western Conference. When we look at some of the teams we have above them with the Grizzlies, San Antonio Spurs, Dallas Mavericks, Minnesota Timberwolves, Los Angeles Clippers, or Denver Nuggets, I just don't think they reached that level. I think Kaman Maluach has a lot of potential as a defensive big, as a rebounder, a lob threat, and a open floor rim runner. I just don't think they have necessarily what it takes right now to be a playoff team. And I would really look into getting them a point guard. I really think they need a point guard, in my opinion. And if Jalen Green takes the jump, which, I mean, it's like year 5 or 6 for Jalen Green. I don't know how realistic that could be right now. But if Jalen Green takes that jump in a new situation, this team could have some really good building blocks. So I'm not going to say I hate it, but right now they're just in a weird spot. As for Portland, I think this is a fringe playoff team. And I think a lot of it has to do with Scoot Henderson. I think if Scoot Henderson can become the point guard that they see him to be, I think this Portland team can be really good. I mean, you have Drew Holiday, Chauncey Billups, and Damian Lillard coaching you throughout this season and next season. I think Scoot Henderson, I think there's a real jump there. He's not the athlete that I came in thinking he was going to be, but I do think he can get downhill consistently, and I think he's gotten better as a playmaker, and he had a stretch where the pull-up three-point shooting was just disgusting. I mean, he was fantastic as a pull-up three-point shooter throughout that stretch. But I think it's all about building blocks with Scoot Henderson. Get to the rim consistently. Now let's start making reads out of those rim attempts. Now let's start being able to run pick and roll and being able to find cutters and find kick out passes and make skip passes. Just become better as a floor general, and then we'll work on the scoring. Be able to be a threat to get downhill. Then we're going to work on the passing. Just start with building blocks. But as for the rest of the team, I mean, I think they're going to be one of the best defenses in the league. Donovan Clingan, Tamani Kamara, Drew Holiday, Denny Advia. I think this team's going to be really good. You still got Robert Williams. There's a lot of things that is really intriguing about this Portland team. Now, do I think they're going to make the playoffs? Maybe not. But I do think they can be a play-in team, which is something that's very important for this Portland team because I think they have the personnel. Do I think they have the guy like maybe Dallas does with a Cooper Flagg, or Minnesota has with Anthony Edwards, or San Antonio has with a Victor Wembanyama? No. But they have a really good team. As for the Sacramento Kings, I think they're in a weird spot as well because you have a bunch of guys that just aren't that valuable on the trade market. Guys like Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine. These are guys you're just going to have to rock with until their contracts expire, especially DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. And that's not me saying they're bad players. There's a difference between not being as valued as an NBA player and being a bad NBA player. And I think right now, Zach LaVine, even though he's offering elite level scoring, elite level shooting, I don't think he's as valuable because of the contract. DeMar DeRozan, I don't think is as valuable with the contract that he's given. So Sacramento, they're just in a tough spot, man. Like, I think they're going to be one of the more exciting offenses to watch, and I think their draft picks and Maxine Reynaud and Nick Clifford are phenomenal, but I just don't see them being a playoff team anymore. Like, that one season was special, but now that they're right back outside of the playoffs, it's like, it sucks to think about. As for the New Orleans Pelicans, I got them in the lottery, bro. Like, I think the Pelicans are going to be one of the more exciting teams to watch. To be completely fair, like, they have a lot of guys that are fun to watch. Trey Murphy's fun to watch. Jordan Poole is fun to watch. Zion is fun to watch. Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears are going to be fun to watch. This team is just not a good team, though. Like, objectively, they are not a good team. Did CJ McCollum get traded by... Hold on, let me figure that out. Because why do I think CJ got traded? CJ definitely did get traded. He got traded to the Wizards for Jordan Poole. I knew I wasn't tripping. I'm like, CJ's not on this team anymore. Yeah, I knew I wasn't tripping. Anyway, yeah, New Orleans, they're not going to be good. They're probably going to be a 12th seed in the Western Conference. I don't even know if they will be a 12th seed, to be completely honest, because these are the only two teams where I'm like, there's no way they're making the play-in. Like, I don't see any push for it. Because the Pelicans are going to be one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They're going to be bad. Jordan Poole, not a good defender. Zion Williamson, not a good defender. Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears, not good defenders. Trey Murphy, good defender, had a bad defensive year last year. They're going to be terrible defensively. Yeah, the Pelicans aren't going to be good. And the Hawks are going to get a top 5 pick in the draft. I see the writing on the wall. Anyway, for the Houston Rockets, this is where we add some contenders to the list. I think the Houston Rockets are contenders in the Western Conference. I think the play of Alperen Sengun is what's really going to unlock this team. I think a lot of people compare Alperen Sengun to Nikola Jokic. I just don't think that's true. I think Alperen Sengun is better off trying to become a Pau Gasol-esque type of player. I think he's a really underrated defender. He's gotten a lot better as a defender in space and a rim protector. And having that level of defenders around you is going to make your job a lot easier. But he definitely holds his weight defensively, and I think he's a positive. Playing with guys like Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, and others, I think there are multiple different players that you can put around Alperen Sengun and them still be a really good defense. Now, as for the offensive side, I would like to see his isolation attempts go down, because we've seen multiple different times where Alperen Sengun is just going to be put in isolation and let him go to work. I do think there's some really good DHO actions he could run with Amen, Fred, and Kevin Durant. I do think they can have off-ball plays run while he plays in the high post, just like how they did with Pau Gasol. I think he could be used as a screen and roll guy, especially if you have a pick and roll with Fred VanVleet and Alperen Sengun, Amen Thompson's in the dunker, and then Kevin Durant's out on the wing, or he's in the corner where he could be really efficient as a shooter or a mismatch attacker where he can get to that one dribble pull up. I think this offense is going to be a lot more or a lot better this season just with the addition of Kevin Durant, but I do think a lot of it leans on Alperen Sengun, and this team is extremely deep. You have guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason. You still have Fred VanVleet. This is a very deep team, and it's a very big team as well. They're still going to be the best rebounding team in the league. They're still going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. And now I expect that offense to take a jump to where I can see them beating OKC in a 7-game series. I can see them beating Denver in a 7-game series. The next team I'm going to be talking about is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are obviously contenders. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, especially after winning the championship and being the youngest team in the league, me having them anything other than contenders is kind of disrespectful. I mean, this team is probably still going to be the best defense in the league. And some of the questions I had this offseason just to myself was, are the Thunder going to take a step back and just trying to get through the regular season, no matter the seeding? And then my counter to my own argument was, I don't think in the Western Conference just trying to get through the regular season is an option anymore. A lot of teams are going to want home court advantage, especially trying to get a good matchup in the playoffs in the Western Conference, because I think that's very important. I think having good positional seeding and a favorable matchup is very important in this Western Conference, because there's a lot of teams that can get out. The Clippers could get a really good matchup in the first and second round and be in the Western Conference Finals. The same could be said for these top 6 teams. All 6 of these teams right here, I can see coming out of the Western Conference. There's a world for it. So I'm not going to speak that much on the Thunder. I mean, we know how good the Thunder are. The Thunder have the best scorer in the league and a top 5 player undoubtedly. They have one of the best rim protectors in the league and one of the most versatile defenders in the league in Jalen Williams, and one of the best rim protectors in Chet Holmgren, and fantastic defensive pieces around them like Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, and others. And then they just drafted Thomas Sorber, and they're getting Nikola Topic back. The Thunder are fantastic, man. Let's move on. As for the Golden State Warriors, I'm going to put them in fringe playoff tier, just because I don't know. This team is old. I don't know how they're going to use Jonathan Kuminga. They haven't made any trades for him, which is very concerning. And their roster around Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy Butler is just very concerning. Now, there was that stretch where they were like a top 5 defense in the league post All-Star break. And Steph Curry was playing like a top 5 player in the world. So I can definitely see them making the playoffs. But do I think they're a for surefire playoff bound team? I just don't think so. Now, the last team I'm going to be talking about, which is my favorite team, the Los Angeles Lakers. I have this team as playoff bound. I think a lot of the arguments with the Los Angeles Lakers are somewhat disingenuous, especially over the offseason, where people are just discounting the moves they made when the Los Angeles Lakers have definitely gotten better. A lot of people say DeAndre Ayton is a bad signing. DeAndre Ayton was the best center on the market, and we got him for cheap over the next season. This is a prove-it contract year for DeAndre Ayton, so he's probably going to play really well. I think he could be a really good pick and roll partner with Luka Doncic, as well as a lob threat and a pull-up mid-range shooter. You also have LeBron James and Austin Reeves, who could be really good second and third offensive options. And then you bring in Marcus Smart, who I still think is one of the better point of attack defenders in the league. He just has had some injury histories to his wrist and hands that have kept him out, and he's played on some pretty bad teams that were trying to tank. For example, 23-24, the Memphis Grizzlies were trying to take once Ja Morant was out for the rest of the season, and then he goes and plays with the Washington Wizards and doesn't play much there either. So I think the Lakers objectively just got better, and I think they're a playoff bound team. Like a lot of people, another argument I heard was the Lakers were outside of the top 10 when Luka Doncic got there. Luka Doncic wasn't nearly the player he was in 23-24 or 22-23, just because of the injuries and the lack of being in shape. So I think with Luka Doncic fully being in shape and having that first step back and getting to the rim consistently, this Lakers team is going to be much better. I think JJ Redick is going to get much better as a coach with using LeBron, AR, and Luka together. And now you have defensive pieces like Marcus Smart and DeAndre Ayton when he's fully bought in. I don't know how much they're going to use Jared Vanderbilt. Hopefully Gabe Vincent can be more of Miami Gabe Vincent and be a better defender. Me just being biased as a Laker fan. But to be completely honest, I can see the Lakers beating anybody on this team, on this list. I can see him beating anybody. I can see us beating OKC. I can see us beating Houston. I can see us beating Denver. I can see us beating anybody, to be completely honest. And I think the Lakers are way better than what a lot of guys are expecting. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching this episode of At the Buzzer Sports, where we tier listed all the Western Conference teams. To go over them real fast, my 3 contenders are the Denver Nuggets, Houston Rockets, and Oklahoma City Thunder. My playoff-bound teams are the Dallas Mavericks, Minnesota Timberwolves, Los Angeles Clippers, and Los Angeles Lakers. Fringe playoff teams are the Grizzlies, Spurs, Trail Blazers, and Golden State Warriors. My weird spot teams are the Phoenix Suns and Sacramento Kings, and my lottery teams are the Utah Jazz and New Orleans Pelicans. Like I said to start this video, I'm not going to be going too in-depth into these teams and their rosters, because I'm going to be doing that at the start of September, I would believe, maybe to the start or to the mid part of September, where I'm going to be deep diving into every single team. We're going to be bringing in some content creators that cover these teams to talk about them. And we're also going to be doing an Eastern Conference tier list. This is why you see the Eastern Conference all the way at the bottom. This is just the Western Conference tier list. This video is almost 30 minutes long, so I don't want to do an hour-and-a-half long video of all 30 teams. And with all that being said, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe before you guys get out of here, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.